Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us here as we wrap up a successful day of conversations with one final one for the road. I am Rini Krishnan with KPMG One Americas, and I'm joined here by Joe Lubin, founder of ConSensys and co-founder of Ethereum, Ryan Sean Adams, founder of MythosCapital and Bankless, and Tegan Kline, co-founder of Ethernote, the team behind the Graph protocol. So I think it's fair to say that the 2020s to date have been bittersweet, to say the least, but it certainly hasn't slowed down the crypto and blockchain space. So why don't we get started by opening up to the group as to what we've been seeing in the industry. Joe, do you want to kick things off with some cool projects you've come across recently? Enterprise, public sector, it's all fair game.
Cool, thanks, Rini. So I think the first thing to notice is that things are accelerating. There are paradigm shifts abound, paradigm shifts in the nature of trust, in the nature of centralization versus decentralization, governance paradigm shifts where governance is popping up and getting experimented with in our own ecosystem. And at ConSensys, we've been thinking about convergence for a long time. We've been operating along a convergence thesis, assuming that the evolutionaries would join us revolutionaries when our technology was ready, similar to how things evolved on the internet and web protocols. And so we're really excited to see within the context of the EEA convergence of enterprise and mainnet interests, whether they're DeFi or whether they're NFTs potentially. And so I think we're going to be redefining what enterprise means in Enterprise Ethereum Alliance as we move forward. And it's a bunch of disruptive technologies that are locking arms and crossing the chasm together into popular culture. So it's blockchain, it's cryptocurrencies, it's DeFi, it's NFTs, and in terms of projects that are enabling this crossing of the chasm, we are paying huge attention to the L2s, the roll-up technologies. Sidechain's not exactly an L2, but important from an enterprise perspective because the internet of blockchain protocols will be built from lots of different architectures that all interoperate with one another via bridges or L2 anchors into L1. And we're really excited to see both tens or hundreds of thousands of new transactions in throughput coming live over the next bunch of months. The advent of or the merge, essentially, speaking of convergence of Ethereum 1 and Ethereum 2, and connectivity across L2s. So Connext is currently an incredibly exciting project that's leading that charge, connecting L2s to L1s and L1s to one another. And so very exciting time for essentially this emergence into pop culture for our technology. We're finally at a point where the technology can support real public interest. It's going to be a lot of growing pains for quite a while as this essentially paradigm shift in how the world chooses to organize itself and re-architect itself proceeds.
Sure, certainly. Ryan, what do you think? What's excited you the most?
Wow.
About what we've seen?
Yeah, I guess I would maybe riff on a lot of what Joe was saying. The first thing he mentioned was accelerating. And I would say that even people who have been in the crypto industry and been in Ethereum and DeFi have been blown away by the pace of this acceleration, right? So just to get a sense of how disruptive this can be and how fast things can move, we have Coinbase, which is a company that's kind of built on crypto rails. They just went public last week, 9 years to build what they've built, $60 billion valuation, amazing. And if you think that's fast, then you look at DeFi protocols like Uniswap, 2 years, 15 employees. doing the same volume as the coin-based exchange already after just 2 years. And that's because they're benefiting from the settlement layer and the DeFi primitives that are available within Ethereum. So this is just happening so fast. And I think it's going to take a lot of people by surprise. Hopefully not a lot of the people who are listening in on this conversation, though. And I want to maybe emphasize another thing that Joe said, which is the opportunity here. The evolutionaries can join the revolutionaries. So there's a massive opportunity, I think, for enterprises, for fintech as well. A massive opportunity for the existing banks. I have like our own sort of thesis around this is somewhat colorful on Bankless. We call it the DeFi mullet thesis, which is basically we're going to see a lot of fintech companies of the future and banks of the future, where they're going to be bank in the front, fintech in the front, and then they're going to be the DeFi in the back, where all the cool stuff happens. So I think there's a massive amount of opportunity for fintech companies, banks of the future, banks now, to start building on top of this infrastructure, because we've proven product market fit now. And now we're just kind of hitting the accelerator on all of this. So really exciting time to be in the space.
Certainly. Tegan.
Yeah, absolutely. I echo a lot of what Joe and Ryan said. I think this is really the year for Ethereum. All of the work that we've been doing in the last 5 years around scalability, we'll see with like the ETH2 merge and the Beacon chain kind of happening later this year. And so Ethereum will be scaling. I think that's like more clear now than it's ever been. And I am so excited about that. And within the Graph ecosystem, because a lot of the dApps, the decentralized applications on Ethereum, are using subgraphs within the graph space, we were able to kind of see a lot of these trends before they hit mainstream. So the DeFi wave that kind of came down and then came back up, and then it kind of flowed into NFTs, which is really exciting because artists and creators previously haven't really been, compensated as much as maybe they should have. And this is a really great time and opportunity for, crypto to do kind of one of the things it set out to do, and help those artists. So that's been great to see. But beyond that, we're seeing emerging trends within DAOs, kind of changing the way people organize and work, as well as like interoperability. So like wrapped BTC on Ethereum and different chains on Ethereum. But I'm really excited about protocols and about projects that are helping to decentralize the stack. I think we're getting closer to kind of a dApp being as easy to create as a website is today. I think we take it for granted how easy it is to create a website now. Before they were like, you had to do extensive research to identify which parts of the stack you wanted to use to create a website. And so I'm really excited about kind of the infrastructure all coming together. And so some projects in that space are Connects, like Joe mentioned, but also Radical, who's like decentralizing the code, like a decentralized GitHub, EPNS, decentralizing notifications. And then layer 2 is like Optimism, Arbitrum, and then Polygon, which is live today, as well as data storage networks like Arweave, Saya, IPFS. So we don't have any more NFTs go missing.
Great. A lot of great points there that we're going to unpack in just a little bit. But before we move forward, big picture question for the group. Where are we in the scheme of things? Are we at an inflection point here in the evolution of the Ethereum network to really make a transformative global impact? Have we passed that point, or do we still have a ways to go? Floor is open.
So I'll jump in. And again, I think it's useful to think about it in the bigger context. I think humanity's at an inflection point. I think we've built technology that is so powerful that it enables small groups of actors to project great power across great distances inexpensively, or use technology to stack piles of value higher and higher and create siloed walled garden systems that are able to do mass manipulation on populations. And we need a new way to organize all this stuff. With respect to the decentralized protocols ecosystem, it's still pretty early days, but we're getting to the point where we're getting much more relevant, and we're going to be relevant in terms of how the Trust Foundation is re-architected, moving from subjective trust systems, which we've relied on for thousands of years, to automated and objective trust systems. Upon that, we have digital scarcity and cryptocurrencies and decentralized finance. And when we build out a global, fluid, nearly friction-free financial infrastructure for the planet, then we can rebuild all the systems. And governance is a really big one. We are, I think, in our ecosystem with our technology, we're going to be at a constant screeching inflection point for many years, and we really need to, because in many ways we're going off the rails. Things are not very healthy in different cultures with respect to different pursuits. And we actually have this amazing new technology that can enable more people, more small businesses or small collective groups to organize themselves, raise money, define goals, build out systems that serve them, and just have the economic and political agency that we should all have. And it's going to be years and decades of transformation.
Absolutely, yeah. And to echo what Ryan said earlier, just about what we're building, like what's been being built during the bear market or multiple bear markets is now coming to fruition. And I think we are absolutely at a reflection point. I think tokens are now the next evolution of the business model beyond SaaS, and people are able to empower individuals through those token models without needing to monetize data or sell ads. And I think that's really powerful. And I think we're kind of giving power back to individuals and also changing the way people work. And so now people don't need to necessarily work for a centralized company or organization. They can work for multiple different protocols or multiple different ideas. For example, within the graph ecosystem, there's multiple roles. Like you can be a curator on the graph ecosystem. You can also be in a DAO within other ecosystems. So I think that's really powerful. And it's really changing the way organizations are done, because organizations now with the internet, organizations don't need to be thousands of people anymore. They can be very tight knit, but their communities can be millions or billions of people. And I think that's really powerful.
Sure. Ryan, any thoughts?
Yeah, I guess I would just add that I feel like in previous cycles of crypto and in previous years, you're kind of the crazy people trying to convince everybody, right? Like, and honestly, in the early days, it's hard to see if this thing is going to work or not. You almost have to ship it and sort of prove it to the world. If we're talking about inflection points, I feel like we are now past that inflection point. So we have product market fit from a cryptocurrency perspective. We have product market fit from a general purpose public blockchain perspective in Ethereum. We have this new money system called DeFi that's building up. So we are beyond the point of looking like sort of the crazy people saying, hey, this is going to be the next big thing. And now we're at the point where we can just say, try this and you'll see. And that is a massive inflection point. And as I said earlier, now I think it's the time for blockchain, for crypto to just hit the accelerator. We have product market fit. I think we can have a lot of confidence in what we built so far. And now we'll just see where this takes us.
And on that note, let's talk about a flashy, not so new toy on the block that everybody seems to want a piece of now, NFTs. Tegan, since the graph went live in December, what kind of trends and demand are you seeing by way of NFTs? Any specific projects you're drawn to?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a working group within the NFT space. So all of the NFT subgraph developers have kind of gotten together because they've noticed that certain standards need to be set into place around storage and around subgraphs. And so they're working to kind of build that stable infrastructure so that NFTs are safe and on that solid foundation. And I think that will come to fruition in the next maybe month or 2 months. And at that point, we'll see a lot more development. I think I want to see less centralized NFT platforms come to fruition. I've noticed a lot of platforms actually taking a large percentage when artists mint NFTs and then when they resell them. And that's not really in the spirit of decentralization. And so I want to see kind of more protocols being formed for that infrastructure so that artists have a very safe place to be that's open source, decentralized, and also permissionless.
So are there any indices that people should look at or data that's been highlighted, you'd say?
I really like Upshot. I think that that's a really interesting platform. Nifty is also interesting. Known Origin is great. They have a subgraph as well as Foundation. Also have subgraphs, and Zora. I really like them as well.
Awesome. Ryan, you've been a longtime proponent of NFTs even before they were cool. So tell me a little bit about what you're seeing, what's fanning the flames now, and what are going to be the biggest challenges in terms of scaling and security?
Yeah, what was weird to me is they just like recently became cool, right? Like I thought they were cool a while ago as this like different new primitive that crypto could use, and they became cool. My wife learned about NFTs not from me, actually. It's from an SNL skit that she saw like a month ago or so. So they've really had their mainstream moment. And I think the macro is it's because this is a way for creators to connect directly to their communities and connect directly their fans. And we've seen this in art. That's digital art has been a huge area. I'm expecting we'll see more in digital music, artists like Blau releasing really interesting NFTs and experiences along with them. We've also seen this in sports collectibles. So NBA Top Shot selling millions. And I think we'll see more in sports collectibles as well. I think the next area to look at is really games. Virtual games have not yet had their mainstream moment. And we've seen sort of arts become a thing, but the ability to have self-sovereignty over your items in a virtual world, over your property in a virtual world, that hasn't yet had its moment. And I think it will. It's always hard to time these things. I thought NFTs would pick up in 2018. They didn't in the same way. And now they're here in art in a way that I didn't anticipate. So it's hard to time these things. You just have to be involved in order to and to see what's going to come next.
Yeah, Ryan, I think what's clear is that you've just become cool to your wife, which is,
yes,
which
absolutely.
is really exciting.
Joe.
One of the benefits of NFTs. So NFTs are also a breakthrough for artists in the sense that they can monetize and continue to own or control their content without selling their soul. And that's a simple implementation of the NFT construct. It's just a container around content, but I think of NFTs as really profound. I think they're going to be ubiquitous. I think of them as an extension of the idea of a software object for for non-software engineers out there. We build software out of these sort of modular software objects that have some data in them and some behavior. And NFTs are basically software objects that have their own unique identity and their ability to pay and their ability to get paid and their ability to make decisions and vote and their ability to have governance over what they do potentially and eventually be embodied, be imbued with intelligence and maybe autonomy. So NFTs are going to be the back ends of businesses. NFTs are essentially going to be a really important part of the software infrastructure as software essentially eats the world. So we have been building NFTs for quite a while at ConSensys in the music space. Trium has recently had some exciting success building on success that our old Ujo platform had, and we launched a platform called Palm, which is essentially a blockchain, an Ethereum technology blockchain, NFT-enabled, NFT-dedicated network that will have intimate connectivity to both the Ethereum mainnet through a bridge, essentially technology from our great friends at ChainSafe, and will have DeFi protocols resident on the Palm network. So NFTs are already DeFi in a really big way, and we're just making that very explicit. And so Palm is an NFT dedicated network, and it's going to be a whole bunch of NFT platforms, including Nifties and others that that will set up shop on the Palm network. It is going to be enormously less expensive to use than a public mainnet. It's a sidechain basically, and it'll maybe in about a year it'll become an L2 when L2 technology is ready. It is our engineers are having a wicked debate about whether it's 10 to the 6th or 10 to the 7th more energy efficient than mainnet. So 10 million times more efficient, and that's been really important to corporates and artists as they are concerned about environmental issues of issuing tokens.
You touched on the energy efficiency portion there. Now, what would you say are the larger picture value drivers for NFTs and the challenges around that? You were talking about scaling and governance before. So could you kind of expand on that?
Larger picture value drivers of NFTs. So first, it's just artists can monetize content. Second, it's that we can think of how we move through the world as a series of moments, potentially, whether you're a journalist or just somebody who does things that are remarkable. If you walk around the world with your camera, you can potentially turn things that are of note into NFTs, and maybe sort of like in the novel Snow Crash, people can be uploading data to a repository and monetizing that data in interesting ways. So it really changes our relationship to experiences, potentially to social issues. We've been having a lot of talk on the Palm project about how we can wrap important social issues in an NFT and figure out ways that people can support those issues with some money, and what we do with that money, or what the issuer of that NFT, how that capital is directed to ameliorate an issue potentially. So it's just like any new enabling and disruptive technology, it's going to take a while to really understand how, what the natural business models or value propositions are. For a while, we're just going to map the old ways of thinking into this new technology, and then the younger generation will figure out how to use it properly.
Another thing to mention too, just quickly, is royalties. So no longer can, art collectors buy something for like $10,000 and resell it for a few million, and then the artist gets nothing. Now there's royalties that are kind of baked into the code, so that any secondary sales, the artist also gets a portion of that, which is powerful.
For sure. That being said, we're definitely past time at this point, but just real quickly, we're moving into a new digital era of the decentralized web, right? So do we want to go around? There's a lot of talk around how do we get there, a lot of moving plates. Where do we start? What does the iterative process look like to build up a sufficient infrastructure? Do we just want to go around and share thoughts real quick? Joe, do you want to take this one?
Apologies, I'm dealing with an emergency text and I missed the question.
Oh, no problem.
I'd be happy, if I hear the question, I'd be happy to answer it.
Sure. So we're moving towards the new digital era of the decentralized web, evolutionary, revolutionary, converging. So what does that look like to build up a sufficient infrastructure that can house parallel processing on so many different fronts, from storage, data management, computation at a higher level, the DIDs? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I think you're basically on track there. So we have a new trust foundation. We're building new financial infrastructure on top of that. So that's it's computation, it's financial elements. We need to figure out data storage. Our friends at Protocol Labs and many other projects are doing a really good job on that. And there are deep linkages that ConSensys is making and others are making to the Ethereum ecosystem and to other blockchain ecosystems. Bandwidth is going to be incredibly important. All of these resources, and energy is included, are going to be provisioned, paid for, have risks hedged out with respect to sales of and usage of on these new decentralized financial protocols. So similar to how metals and soft commodities, etc., caused financial infrastructure to be built up underneath them in order to build much more robust systems. We're essentially granularizing the next generation economy. So the atoms will get taken care of by the autonomous systems, which frees us creative beings up to think about things, to create things, to learn, to entertain and educate, and we'll be operating in a world of bits. And so the physical infrastructure will get efficient and take care of us. And we're essentially going to build a new kind of much more fluid economy where creativity and different kinds of health and other higher level pursuits are probably going to be the next sorts of GDP.
Like that. And on that note, that's about all the time we have here today, and then some. Thank you, panelists, and thank all of you in attendance for joining us. Ryan, if you want to add anything, feel free to do so. If not, I think that's it.
That's great. The future's bright, guys. Really excited.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.